Hello, everybody. Welcome to Community Wise Podcast. I am Holly Long, your host, and today we are going to talk about a new program, new to LISC, Teachers Like Me. And I would like to present and introduce you all to Dr. Trinity Davis. Hey, Dr. Davis.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into Teachers Like Me, and then what led to Teachers Like Me.
Okay, this is a loaded question, I always say. But me, I'm a wife, a mother with 2 children, have a daughter in college who, of course, wants to be a teacher. So,
Okay. What
so it's
college?
working. She's at Alabama A&M.
Okay.
HBCU.
Yes.
And so,
Howard alum.
Yeah. Okay. So with that though, I started out as a teacher many years ago. So this is my 27th year in education.
Wow.
And so started out as a teacher, became a person who supported teachers, and then moved into a professorship that I ended up being an associate professor at Pittsburgh State University.
Okay.
But still wanted to work with diversity in the classrooms and help diversify the schools. And so I moved back to Kansas City to be assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction and professional development in the district. Started out just working with the curriculum, but then, was promoted to that. And so from that and the things that I've experienced and the things that I've witnessed in education, I want to be a bigger help, make a bigger impact on districts across the nation. And so Teachers Like Me, that's where that came from.
Okay, so walk us through, how did you actually set it up?
Okay,
We know what the idea behind it.
Yeah, the idea behind it. So I always start with when I was a teacher in the classroom, I noticed that I was one of very few Black teachers and kind of was thinking, is this a bigger issue? And I started my master's degree and I started looking at the data and I realized this issue was huge. So at that point, I was just trying to, recruit friends and family to the profession, so it started out as just an idea. But one thing that really, I think, made this impact on me is I was teaching in a predominantly Black school. And
Which school, might I ask?
I won't say.
Okay.
But it was in Kansas City.
Okay.
But it was on the Kansas side.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I was in a predominantly Black school. And one thing that I noticed is that my kids outscored the district. And they were really high that year. And so what I realized is I guess they ended up bringing someone in to retest the kids. And what hit me was that, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Let's run this back. They brought someone else in other than you to retest your children to basically confirm that what you did was correct.
Yes. And so
I understand now why you don't want to tell us the name.
Yeah. So that's what really made an impact on me, because when I looked at the Black student data across the nation and across the metro, across the state of Kansas, it made my stomach hurt. And so to know that, okay, I went and put my best foot forward, they can read. This was their reading scores. So they could read really well. I was appalled that they would question that. And then I realized maybe they don't believe in the kids. And then it dawned on me, and they don't believe in me. So from there, as I ended up becoming a professor, my dissertation for my PhD, where I got it through Kansas State University, was about looking at when you have a predominantly Black school with higher test scores, what's happening in the building. And so I couldn't find a district. I could only find a school in a district because it's so far and few between. So I ended up researching those schools, traveling, and then looking at some of the common threads that I could see and trends that were happening in those schools. So taking those trends, I wanted to come and try to put some of those things in place in all the jobs that I've had, which has been great. But then I see a missing piece. We need the right people in the right seats in the classroom. And so I see all of this need for extra professional development. However, it's hard for a district to get that time. It's hard for a university to give all of that to their, undergrads. Once they graduate, they're in the classroom. So just looking at that, I thought, okay, I see why I was a professor and then I was a district administrator, because I want to close the gap in there as far as bringing in. And then with this idea, I also did some research and looked at Johns Hopkins had done a big piece on the fact that the impacts of a Black teacher would increase reading scores, math scores. An impact of a Black teacher would get more students would graduate and what it would do to black student data that my stomach was hurting over. And so as I looked at that, I looked at Kansas City and the Latinx Collaborative ran by Edgar Palacio. They
Hey,
did,
Edgar.
yes, hey Edgar. They did a study where they were able to look at the number of black teachers across the metro. So we're looking at all of Kansas City, and at that time, 2.8% of the teachers were black.
Yeah.
A third of our schools in Kansas City, they don't have a black teacher on campus or a teacher of color, period. So with that, there was nothing else to do. So I resigned from my job, as assistant superintendent, had to talk with my husband, of course, first, and said, I think this is what I want to do. And he was kind of like, finally.
Shout out to the supportive husband.
Yes. Shout out to him. So he was like, finally, because he's watched this over 20 years, and so this is where we are. And it's so exciting.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So talk to me about how to get involved. If I was a teacher, and what are we doing for recruiting efforts? What are we doing for retention? In general, we've talked about this at LISC, that Kansas City is still a transplant place. Although some people love to stay here, which we hope you do stay here, we don't want that brain drain, that talent drain to continue to happen. And so that recruiting effort is something bigger than all of us. And that's something that we have to work together with for everybody. So all that to say, what are you guys doing to recruit? What are the requirements?
Okay. So what we're looking for is a teacher right out of college that probably has already gone through the College of Education and they're a recent undergrad. We're also looking for career changers. So people who, they seem to have a lot of the content degrees, a math degree, a history degree, but they don't have what it takes for certification to get in the classroom. So we support them through that. Also, we actually pull them out of high school and support them through their 4 years of college so that to help them to stay in the profession and support them through that so that they come in. So we actually have those three types of people we recruit. But when we're recruiting those college graduates, we have to get them from everywhere. Because one of the things that's, really unique about Kansas City is we only have Langston University that's close by. We have Harris Stowe and we have Lincoln. However, we still get the numbers aren't big that come from them. So we go out and recruit everywhere. So right now we're at Mississippi Valley State recruiting. Just recently came back from Grambling recruiting. So we're going to the HBCUs, and the biggest piece that pulls them in is the housing.
Of course.
So it's the housing. There. And so the fact that the housing, it's bigger than the affordable rent as you start your profession. It's more of you have a community in your house, in your neighborhood. So the
and you
housing,
feel a part of it.
Yeah. So just them being together, and that's a retention method. So that's a retention strategy. If they grow as a family together, as a cohort, and years of this experience together, they don't want to leave. You're leaving your friends. The other piece is the support in the classroom. One of the first things that they ask George, our recruiter, is, when I get there, will I just be left alone? I mean, they're scared to death to get into the classroom, and with principals, they do their best job to get into everywhere that they can, but they have a lot of things going on in that building. So again, us just being able to remove that barrier of them being scared in the classroom and them feeling supportive, so that's really the recruitment piece, is to be able to tell them the story. And the best person to recruit them is the teacher. So they have a lot of questions for those teachers when they see them. So we had an experience last year. We went to Southern University. We pulled in two girls that were so neat. One of them was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. And the other one's like, well, I'm open to it. So I just want to hear what's going on with teachers like me. So I start telling her about the recruiting pieces and those things. And she's like, okay. And then we go into the part where they the teacher and what they're getting for development. And so the other teacher, like, she dropped her phone. She's like, now I'm listening, because you're getting all this support in the classroom. And she's like, yeah. And the teacher saying how it changed their life, and how they wouldn't be in the classroom still probably without it. And so then I hit the end with the housing, and they're like, what? We can have our rent for 3 years at a cheaper rate that we could actually save money? Yes. And you can survive and you can eat, right?
Yeah.
So after
And
that,
maybe
they were
even
like,
pay back your loans.
exactly. And so right after that, one of them said, okay, I need to call my mom because I might be going to Kansas City. And so part of that recruitment becomes important because I communicate with parents. You're letting your baby that just graduated from college move to Kansas City that's 10 hours away or whatever. And so having that relationship with the parents is important for me. So sometimes I'm mom because I have to say, you need to get there and you need to do, but just that support, they don't feel alone. So that's what retains them. It's also what recruits them. So the housing is just an added bonus because, they get here in July. Teachers don't get paid till the end of August. So if I had to put down a deposit and rent, luckily I had my parents for that. But even my dad made the comment like, you need a husband if you're gonna move, So I think they had to move me a lot because I was trying to move into something I could afford, So I just think that I don't want the teachers to have to go through this because without my parents, I don't know that I would have stayed in the profession. And not everyone has that support.
Wow. Thank you to Dr. Davis's parents for keeping her in this profession. People like me appreciate you.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. Really. I mean, truthfully, that's what kept me. So I want to be able to offer the same support for teachers.
And the beauty of what you just shared is the quintessential, as an HBCU alum, the quintessential HBCU experience.
Exactly.
And so it sounds like it's just part two. It's after the graduation and getting into life, kind of ushering them in into adult world and still having a mom like presence who has that connection with their family. It's everything.
Huge. Yeah. So it's so much more than the development, than everything else, even the housing, but it's about relationships that are built. So I think that piece is just like, and it's, I wasn't a hugger really until I got them.
Yeah.
Well, I hugged my kids, and my husband. But as far as, I've always been that person. Anyone would tell you how I am like that, but now I have them and they, go through life. And so you got to just give them a big hug and that's what they need. And so this program's brought a lot out of me and I've learned a lot at doing this work. So I've been in education, but being nonprofit is different.
So let's talk about the sustainability of the nonprofit. Like we both know, the struggle is real.
The struggle is real.
So what do you all do? What are fundraising efforts? How do you, get your funding, things of that nature?
Right now, the first 3 years, this is year 3. So, right now I've just been doing a lot of begging, however, with us building the housing for the teachers, that revenue, once we get those paid off pretty nicely through grants and things like that, that revenue becomes something that can create sustainability.
Of course.
So, one thought I had was, well, instead of, trying to buy stuff for the teachers, buy housing and things like that, maybe we should just look at how we can take an apartment complex and help, supplement their rent. However, that isn't as sustainable as having your own housing. So when I really looked at sustainability, I knew we needed to have this, that it's part of the organization. The other part is we do charge districts for the teachers because we go out and we get them, we develop them, we house them, and so each teacher costs. So with those two revenues, it keeps us it'll keep us going because I started this in 2020, so COVID.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it in 2019, not knowing COVID was coming.
Right.
But still went ahead with the plan and strategically planned that year. And so with that, the housing piece started slowly because we couldn't build at the time, However, I think that taught me to make sure I have revenue that's sustainable so that if anything like that comes up again, we don't have to let people go, and we can't recruit as many teachers because it doesn't matter. We're still going to need teachers, especially in a time like that. So, so just trying to really keep the revenue stream up and, shout out to the many funders who believe in this.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a huge piece, So, having 30 teachers in the classroom wouldn't happen without the funding.
So if you're interested in being a funder for teachers like me, please contact Dr. Davis.
Please.
Or call us and we'll connect you to her.
Yes.
So speaking of which, our partnership with the LISC.
Yes.
And teachers like me, explain to me how that even became about.
Well, so this goes back to the housing. So Mannheim Community Land Trust I'm on the board for them, but someone I know, Scott Johnson, I met through this process.
Yeah.
He had lots there with the Community Land Trust, and he had a vision for teachers to be there because he heard an interview on the radio about how much teachers were needed in Kansas City. So he set out with this idea. So us to connect was like heaven sent, right?
Yeah.
So basically he started out with me and helped me get this off the ground. And then they donated us the lots to build on. So now we can build on their lots and share that with them. And so it's a remarkable piece there because now we don't have to go try to buy land. But I will tell you, Kansas City has been so generous. There's been so many people that have contacted me to say, hey, we have a house you can rent if you need it. Hey, we have land you can buy, or land we can get you for a cheap price. So all of the community here has really been helping in this process. And so that's really, really been excited. But just getting with them, with Scott Johnson, he actually connected me to Amanda. And so Amanda
Wilson.
Hey, Amanda Wilson. So Amanda and I basically meet all of the time.
Yes.
Actually just saw her face to face for the first time not long ago. And
you're welcomed into our CDC network now, right?
Yes. So
community development.
Yes. So I'm really excited about that. And so we actually LISC was able to help get some pre-development funds for our next build. And so that's been helpful. And it's been a learning experience because to get those type of dollars, they're all been foundational or private dollars. So it's been a learning experience and it's been exciting, and she roots for us, and really that's my main thing. Is when people believe in it, they try to help in any way that they can. And so I truly appreciate all of the work from LISC. So, and then of course when she sees me I ask for more,
Of course.
Hey, that's the nature of the beast. So.
Hey, we get it. And we want you to ask for more because we want this to be around.
Yes.
So, okay. Talk to us about long term. Where are we going with teachers like me?
Okay, so this is perfect
when
timing.
you come into Lee's Summit School District to help my little babies.
No, that's where I am too. So it's
then
definitely
you already know. We'll talk offline.
Yep. So parent teachers conference is coming up pretty soon. So
Thursday. That's why I'm coming back in town early.
Yes. So we're in the process right now. It's really exciting of our strategic planning. And so that's going to be, so the first strategic plan, I knew 3 years was enough because we just wanted to tighten the model. I need a model that we can pick up and we can move and expand to other cities, to other, even, we're partnered with Kansas City Public Schools right now, but the goal was after the third year to expand partnerships across the city. So that's where we might get into hitting up Lee Summit.
Please.
Yeah. And so then the other piece is expanding with universities. So we've been partnered with UMKC. They help with our undergrads and they help our teachers get their certification, and we're expanding that partnership as well. So it's all about expansion right now and looking toward the future in the next 5 years. So with that, I'd like to have 75 spaces for teachers in Kansas City. That means as they revolve, because this is transitional housing. It's 3 years that can help them save, And so after they leave the housing, the goal is they can buy a house and, become a Kansas Citian. But just looking at it from that level, the strategic planning is going to take us there. So we have several cities interested. Baton Rouge is one, which would be great because we can partner with LSU and Southern. Tulsa, Oklahoma is one interested area, which, we could partner with a lot of the universities. Oral Roberts, we have 2 teachers from there. And then also St. Louis is interested. So I feel like that's what we're going to look at is what does that process look like? And right now I'm looking at how do we engage with the city or the university or the schools? How do we plan with them? And then what's implementation look like? So we're working on that. But in 5 years, I'm hoping to see us in at least 4 states. Big goals, big dreams, but possible.
It's possible, and we need it. Okay, so say for instance, I'm listening to this podcast and you are a teacher and a teacher of color. How do they, other than the recruiting process through the schools and things of that nature, if they were already out of school, could they possibly enter the program, or how does that work?
They could, because one of the things we want are novice teachers, you know, so we want to be able to show you the things that, okay, I learned this in college and now I'm putting it in place, but it's still really scrambled in my mind. So we want to even that out. And that's something we've been doing a really good job of with our teachers. And so with that, they actually could go on the website, which is actually teacherslikeme.org, and there's an apply button, and you can apply, and we'd engage to see if you're a good fit. We do screenings to make sure that everyone's a good fit, and then after that, we work to make sure we place you in the right place that works for you, because that's part of the retention strategy.
Exactly.
Where I place you and get to know you and find a good match with the, not so much the principal, because they're may not be there in 3 years,
Exactly.
but the environment, the culture of the building, and put you together with that, then even if it's your second or third year teaching, you still need what we're giving you.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, we want to retain.
Absolutely.
And so when we see a teacher, if they feel like, okay, I need it for, my first question is, what in Teachers Like Me do you need? Is it the support in the classroom? Is it the housing? Is it support to get your master's degree so that you're not in debt? You know, so what are those things that really bring it up to you? And so everyone has a different reason. So we would see like, okay, they need this. We're able to help them remove that barrier, because that's our goal. And so how do we fit this teacher into the program? So we work it out. And we have, our group is from 18 to 57 years old, you know, so we want a diverse group of teachers in there from all over. So it's nice to have a teacher who's been in the classroom before, because then they're really willing to listen, because they know, like, I need
it
this.
didn't work. Yeah, this didn't work. I need something.
So we look for novice teachers. And like, we just have a teacher who's been teaching 2 years that moved to Kansas City, because now it's a whole different thing. Kansas City doesn't look like everywhere else. We have a lot of schools. We have a lot of choices. You know, we have a lot of small districts and things like that. So they need help navigating the city a little bit. And so having the program is a lot easier. Because I will tell you, for the schools to go out to the HBCUs and say, hey, move to Kansas City, we'll give you a job and here's your salary, they're kind of like, okay, sounds good, but I don't know anyone there.
Exactly.
When you have a program that they can take to the recruitment schools and say, hey, you can come and teach in our school, but we have a program that's really good for you, and it has other teachers that will teach what you teach and all of these things, that's a bigger pool. So I want to be able to be something the districts could use to recruit as well.
That reminds me of inroads, like specifically for teachers. But wow. Okay. So for parents like me who are navigating having small kids, elementary school, I have a 8-year-old who's in 3rd grade in Lee Summit School District, and I have a 4-year-old who, for lack of a better words, in pre-K is charging like a mortgage. All that to say, what do you have for other parents, particularly parents of color, who are very cautious and very aware of, I want my children to be in a good atmosphere. I want them to be in a place that respects them and understands that they're, you know, just because they're a person of color, they're just as beautiful or just as whatever. What kind of words of wisdom would you have navigating schools in general, particularly predominantly white schools? And then how can we be an advocate for you in support of, with our internal administration, to encourage them that you really need to get teachers of color here?
Well, I think for one, it's Saturday, we had the Teachers for Professional Development, and the focus in the afternoon was on parent-teachers conferences. So like, how are you going to speak to your parents and learning those pieces? We also work with Spark with the Parent Power Lab. And so it's really good to be able to have that across the board. So like, one of the things I've always wanted is he brings parents in and then they have a discussion, you know. But one thing I can say for parents, and because, you know, I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, so I've been down your road and still there, you know, almost at the end. But is to be an advocate, to check in. Sometimes it's a little scary for the teacher when especially when you're an advocate like myself, who's been a professor in College of Ed and things like that.
We know.
So it could be a little intimidating, but
they'll be all right. That's what
they'll
you get
be
paid
okay.
for.
And it's one of those things is coming in as parents, as partners, but also making sure that you're holding the schools accountable for making sure your kids are meeting their goals. That's huge. And so I had one kid that I had to not look at so much, for the other one I have to say, did you do your homework? Did you do your homework? And so just advocating for your child, I think, is really important, because you have two kids. They're two totally different children. They're going to approach everything in a different way, and so but also just reaching out. Like, I'm also a resource, and my team is a resource. And so being able to reach out to say,
Dr. Davis.
To reach out. I mean, people literally contact me often to say, hey, this is something I'm going through as a parent. How should I approach the school? How should I approach this teacher? And so I think and eventually what I'd like to see is the teachers like me, as they roll out of the program, they become an alumni member that may answer those questions, that may do some of those things. So that's part of the strategic planning too. And so how do we, right now I've only been able to really think about them and getting them in place, but expansion requires will give us a lot more. And so what things are they good in? I have one that I'm like, oh, he'd be so good in parent connections and how to help teachers with that. So I really believe advocating for your child, but just finding a resource to talk to, so that when you enter that classroom or that conference, you feel very comfortable. But I will say, when we moved back to Kansas City, I went and researched schools, and I looked at schools, and I was looking for a school that had two things. The response to intervention, because my kids were coming from Kansas over to Missouri. And so the standards are different, so I wanted to make sure that if they noticed something low, they had a system in place to bring my child up. The other thing I was looking for is Black teachers in the school. And so I chose Lee Summit because when I went to look, Underwood at the time had 3 Black teachers and RTI, and I was very happy with that. So, I mean, I could not complain about one thing when they were there. So you picked a good choice. But literally, I went through the state website and found all the data and thought this will be a good fit for my children.
Okay.
My husband was like, Lee Summit, he's from KCK. And
I already know.
Yeah, he's like, Lee Summit, people there, is it that big? And so he was really surprised when we got here, because I was here looking at schools while I was getting ready for the job. So I would just say, be an advocate. I mean, this is a Black parent navigating these systems in Kansas City. It's difficult. So I wished I had something where, like, okay, you're a new parent, you're coming to the city, but actually we have that. That's Show Me KC Schools. We have something like that to navigate that, and we are now part of that, where we can be at the table when those parents come in. They're looking at where to put their pre-K children and have those realistic conversations. So I think with Show Me KC Schools, we've only done it once, but I think we're in there, and it's something we'll be doing on a regular, and that gives parents a chance to hear what we do.
Dope. Any closing thoughts?
Like I said, we are doing a capital campaign.
Okay, talk to us.
So right now we have housing for 9 teachers, but we have a waiting list of like 20 teachers that need housing. So, to be able to meet those needs and to continue recruiting at the level that we're doing, we need to continuously build. So, so one of the things that I would suggest is going to teacherslikeme.org, clicking on the housing. First of all, you can get a tour of the new housing that was built. You can see
absolutely fabulous.
It is. They did such a great job. And then you can see the one house that we bought during the COVID time when we couldn't build. And we have 3 student teachers in there. So 3 new teachers coming into the classroom next year. How exciting.
That is super dope.
And then we have the rendering on there of what we're building now. That would house 16 teachers.
Wow.
And so we would have space for 25, still need more, but I'm working that out. That's the day-to-day work for me. Yeah. So I do want to give a shout out to, we have an instructional coordinator, D'Amico Witherspoon, who has 30 teachers. She sees in the classroom, coaches individually. I mean, she runs the professional development. That's our retention method.
Wow.
And then George Fuller, he's our new recruiter and retention coordinator. And so he's out working on looking at policies and how we can get more teachers in and recruiting. So just having them has made it easier for me to focus on fundraising and housing. So, and on that housing page of the website, you can click and contribute to the capital campaign. You can have naming rights. We can name the building after you.
All right.
Any of those things. So, just look at the packages and support, I think, would be the best thing.
All right. Well, you heard it here with Dr. Davis. Thank you all so much for joining us for this month's Community Wise podcast. We will see you next time.
Thank you.